Hi mathematicians, remember it really will be better if you use this video to check yourself. At least pause the video and try it, and then restart the video when you're ready to see whether or not you've done the question correctly. So in problem number 1, I can see that y is equal to 8. So that means that in the other equation, I'm going to take the y out, and I'm going to replace it with that 8. So I like to take the extra step and rewrite the entire problem. So everything exactly the same, except instead of a y, I'm going to replace it with an 8. So now I need to figure out what x is equal to. So I've got to isolate my x. So what's sitting here with the x that needs to go away? Well, there's a couple of different things. There's the minus, and there's the minus 8. I'm going to cancel the minus 8 first. How do I cancel a minus 8? I do it with a plus 8. And remember that an equation has to stay balanced. If it's going to be out of balance if I don't. Also, sorry about that, add 8 to the other side of the equal sign as well. So those are going to cancel. I'm going to bring down the x. Don't forget there's also a negative with that x. And then negative 8 plus positive 8 is 0. Now, my x is still not quite isolated because there is a minus that's with it. So remember, when you don't see a number in front of the x, that means that there is there's a 1 right there. So what this really means is negative 1 times x. Well, how do we cancel out 1 times x? We're going to do the inverse, which is to divide both sides. So x is equal to 0. So because I know that x is equal to 0, so x is 0, and I already knew from before that y is equal to 8. Remember my solution, I put the x first and I put the y second. So that means my solution for number 1 is 0, 8. Okay, problem number 2. Y is equal to negative 6. So I am going to take the y out, and I'm going to replace it with a negative 6. So I'm going to rewrite the entire equation, except I'm going to replace the y not just with a 6, but with a negative 6. So this kind of makes something look a little bit goofy. Remember from previous years of math, if you have two minuses together, if you take away a negative, that's really going to turn it into a plus. So I now have the equation 6x plus 6 is equal to negative 18. So I still need to isolate my x. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. That's going to cancel. Use your calculator and make sure you don't make a little mistake, guys, because especially this one is easy to do. Negative 18 minus 6 is negative 24. Then I'm going to bring down my 6x. How do I cancel out the 6? Well, the 6 sitting there is multiplication. We cancel out that multiplication with division. So x is equal to negative 4. So since I know that my x coordinate is negative 4 and my y coordinate is negative 6, remember you write the solution as the x first and then the y second. So my solution is going to be negative 4, negative 6. Okay, for number 3, once again, I see that y is equal to negative 8. So I am going to take the y out in a minute, and I'm going to replace it with a negative 8. So I need to rewrite the equation exactly the same. So 7x, going to write that minus, going to write the 2. I'm going to skip the y for a minute, and then equals 9. So I wrote everything exactly the same, except I put a negative 8 in for y. Now here's where we need to be careful. Remember that this 2 sitting next to the negative 8. Whenever you have things sitting next to each other, that means multiplication, because you're doing 2 times y. So that means that I need to do 2 times negative 8. And so 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. So I'm going to bring everything else down. And here I have that double negative again. Remember, 2 negatives make a positive. So this is going to be 7x plus 16 is equal to 9. Then I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. I've got 7x is equal to negative 7. And I've got to cancel out that multiplication by dividing both sides by 7. So my x is equal to negative 1. So since x is negative 1 and y is equal to negative 8, that means that my solution is negative 1, negative 8. Number 4, again, y is equal to 0. So I'm going to take the y out of here and replace it with a 0. So I'm going to rewrite the equation exactly the way it should be. Remember, this means multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and put my multiplication there. So instead of 7 times y, I'm going to do 7 times 0. So I've got 5x minus 7 times 0 is 0. Okay, so I guess I could add 0 to both sides, but it's really just going to give me the same thing. Then I need to cancel out that 5 by dividing both sides by 5. So my x is equal to 0. So if x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0, then that means that my solution is 0, 0. Okay, so now for number 5, I've got y is equal to negative 7. So I am going to take that y out, and I'm going to replace it with a negative 7. Keep in mind that since the 3 is sitting next to the y, that means multiplication. So when I go to rewrite everything, I'm going to put that multiplication after the 3. And everything is the same, except I'm going to replace that negative 7. I'm going to replace the y with a negative 7. So if I do 3 times negative 7, I get negative 21. Okay, there's that double negative again. 2 negatives make a positive. So now I'm going to isolate my x by doing a minus 21 on both sides. I'm going to bring down my negative 6x. That cancels. Negative 21 and 21 is equal to 0. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. X is equal to 0. So since x is equal to 0 and y is equal to negative 7, I'm going to use my solution is 0 and negative 7. Okay, so I've worked the first 5 for you. So now you try the second 5. And please make sure that you are using that Desmos calculator, like I said in the notes, for you to check your work.